Hi there, students! I'm XS. That's little x, little s, which stands for extra sweet, because that's what I am. I'm a Puppy-Sensei, and I make Japanese language lessons to help you level up your abilities. Well, we're all moved into our new office. What do you think? Manager Sama is out right now grabbing another load of our office supplies. Okay, very weird thing. Alright, while it's just you and me, I need to tell you this really odd thing that happened, because this is so bizarre, okay? While we were moving out of our old office, we found this box, right? The box was kind of just like tucked away back behind some stuff, and like we had never like been back there before. Nobody ever opened this box. We didn't know this box was there. But when we opened it up, it was completely full of hex keys. Like, you know those little L-shaped tools that you use to build IKEA furniture? There were like 6,000 of them in there. And the weird thing is, they were all the exact same size, right? They were just like about the size of my pinky finger, just these like little ones, all exactly the same. And like, we have no idea where they came from. It's so bizarre. Like, I mean, like, I guess the good news is that I suppose we have enough of those to last forever in case we ever like buy new furniture and need to put it together and we need one of those things. But like, why on earth do we need 6,000 of them? That doesn't make sense. Why would we need so many? Anyway, I guess like I guess it's pretty weird. I don't know what happened with that. But yeah, I love our new office space. Isn't it like really pretty? It's really pretty, right? I have a really great view of the tree out there. It's so good. I'm just really happy with it. It's gonna be a really cozy place for us, I think. So please feel free to drop by anytime during my office hours. I would love to see you. I'm always so happy to engage with my students and answer their questions and anything like that. Like, like otherwise I'll just be here with Manager Sama, like not not doing a lot, not doing a lot, just like writing and reading and stuff like that. So I'm waiting for you. Come see me, okay? Yeah. Come see me. Anyway, as much as I love this new office space, we should definitely do a class, right? So let's head down to the classroom and we'll learn about some potential verbs. Okay? Let's get into it. Ikimashou! Okay. Hi everyone. So, as I said, today we're learning potential verbs. So far, as we've been learning a lot of Japanese sentences and leveling up your Japanese skills, we've learned a lot of affirmative statements and a few ways to make negative statements. It's great to be able to say, I am eating pasta or I am not eating pasta, but what if you wanted to express your ability to do something? For instance, what if you wanted to say, I am able to eat pasta? Well, today we're going to discuss one of two different ways to go about making these kinds of potential statements. We're going to look at that other style for constructing a potential verb in 2 weeks. The two styles of expressing your ability to do something that I'll be discussing will be as follows. We have dekiru, and that on its own is a verb that can mean something like can do, able to do. Basically, it expresses your ability to do something. We'll talk in a second about how you go about using it and all of that. The other style that we're going to talk about next time is a verb ending. Depending on the verb that you're trying to use, it's going to be conjugated into a different form. But again, I'm saving that for my next lesson. So what do we mean when we're talking about potential verbs? In English, we have the auxiliary verb can. And for English, that word can is a little bit flexible, isn't it? Let's contemplate how that looks in English. Okay, so here's our first use case. In this sentence, can is referring to take me to the store, right? Can you take me to the store? It's being used both to ask permission and also to express capability, right? You're asking if someone is able to do that thing. But what we're seeing in the reply by person B is that we can sometimes use can just on its own. Technically, yes, it is hearkening back to take me to the store. So in the sentence, yes, I can, the meaning is, yes, I can take you to the store. But in the sentence, we really just have can and it's sitting by itself, and that's okay in English, right? We should take careful note that it's perfectly okay to use can as kind of the lone verb in a sentence, and it's grammatical to do so in certain cases. So we might want to define can in this example as either are you able to or I am able to. And that's great because we can also use can in cases like this one. I can dance. We see can in cases where it sort of attaches to a certain verb, right? It's modifying that verb. It's talking about your ability to do the specific verb. Here, dance. I can dance. In the case of this second example, very similar to the first example, right? It has the meaning I'm able to do a specific verb. The thing about dekiru in Japanese is that it's not an auxiliary verb. It's just a regular verb. It means can, able to have the capability. But because it's a verb, it behaves like a verb, and it's going to require all of the grammatical constraints that go with being a verb. One very quick and easy use of the verb dekiru is in a really simple sentence like this one. Dekimasu. That means I can do it. I can do that. It's a common reply to a request. Can you do such and such for me? Hi, dekimasu. Yes, I'm able to do it. No problem. And so, in a way, dekimasu will be used in some cases like the English can, since we know that can also occasionally be used by itself in this same way. Just like in our previous example in English, yes, I can. That's basically what you're expressing with dekimasu. I'm able to do it. Unfortunately, from here, dekiru is going to become a little bit more complicated. We've already defined dekiru as a verb. Verbs are really usually looking for nouns. If we think back to some of our earliest lessons, when we build a sentence in Japanese, we're usually thinking in terms of subject, object, verb constructions. And that means that for Japanese, we build our sentences with a subject, which is usually a noun or a noun phrase, an object, which is usually a noun or a noun phrase, and then finally a verb. Verbs in Japanese are really looking for nouns. But that's a problem for us, isn't it? Because dekiru is a verb that means something along the lines of can do something. And when you can do something, the thing that you can do really ought to be a verb, right? By definition, if you can do something, then the thing that you're doing needs to be an action, doesn't it? But because of the grammatical constraints of the language, for Japanese, in order to accomplish this, we're going to need to perform a couple of extra steps so that we're really able to express that we're able to do some verb, right? And basically, one of the ways that we see the verb dekiru being used is in this larger construction that looks this way, right? This is koto ga dekiru. Let's try to understand what this is before we learn how to use it. So, dekiru we understand, right? It's a verb and it means can or able to. Easy. It's an ichidan verb, so it will conjugate exactly the way we expect. Dekiru in the present plain, dekimasu in the present polite, dekimashita is the past polite, and dekita is the past plain. I want you to stay tuned for another lesson very soon where I do a deep dive into verb conjugations because I think that we're long overdue for that, but I'm going to save that for a little bit. It's coming soon though, so watch out. All right, the next element in this little construction is ga. We often say that ga is the subject marker. And for our purposes here, why don't we say that that's true with complications? Ga here is a little bit weird, but we know that it's a particle, and we know that it's marking something as a possible subject of the sentence. I'm going to talk about that more later, but this ga is not actually all that different from the ga in our ga arimasu or ga imasu sentences. And so that just brings us to this koto part. This koto is a nominalizer. What does that mean? Koto basically translates to a thing. From a certain point of view, koto is somewhat interchangeable with the word mono. Mono also means a thing. Both of these words basically mean a thing, right? Some kind of thing. Remember, we learned that you can use mono to turn a verb into a noun, right? We've done this before. So we used mono with a verb like taberu, which means to eat, to create the noun tabemono, which means a food, something that you eat, a thing that you eat. Okay? Now, koto is actually going to work very similarly. We're going to add it to a verb's dictionary form to create a new noun. For instance, taberu koto. Ne? Taberu koto. Okay, so we make a noun with mono, and it makes a thing that you do with that verb, right? Like tabemono from taberu. A tabemono is a thing you eat. Ne? Is koto exactly the same? No, not really. Koto and mono both translate to a thing, but this part is really cool. I think this is really neat. Mono usually translates to a physical thing, some object, something you can grab in the real world. Like tabemono is a food, right? And a food is a real thing. That's something real. You can put your hands on it. You can put it in your mouth. You can bite it. You can chew it. Food is real. Koto usually translates to an event, an abstract concept, or an idea. So, taberu koto means something like the act of eating, the doing of the eating process, the actual sitting down to do the eating. So, tabemono is the physical food. Taberu koto is the eating of the food as a noun. I think that's pretty cool. Actually, I love this. Now, okay, that was actually a bit of a digression, so let's get back on track and we'll talk about koto ga dekiru. That's what we're talking about today. So, we're looking at this construction, and we're thinking about the koto here. And basically, we can assume that the thing that comes before this koto is probably a verb in the dictionary form. Can't we? Right? Because generally this phrase means something like able to do whatever verb, right? Nani nani koto ga dekiru. I can do that verb. Whatever verb that we put in there, you're basically saying, I'm able to do that. Now, I want to be clear, some verbs kind of won't fit in this construction because if it's not something that like you can express that you're able to do, then it's not going to fit, right? So like dekiru koto ga dekiru doesn't really make sense because that kind of means the ability to have the ability to do something, and that kind of doesn't fit, right? And so you will find that there are some verbs that just sort of maybe just don't really super well work within this construction. But generally speaking, almost any verb that you can do, you'll be able to put in this verb plus koto ga dekiru construction to mean something like I'm able to do that verb. When you think about it though, we've actually done a whole lot of work in order to get to this construction. And it's a construction that really just means like can. In English, that's relatively easy. I can run. I can jump. Something like that. With Japanese, it's gonna be a little bit harder. We started with dekiru, meaning can. And then we're marking it with ga, right? More on that in a second. We're going to talk about ga in just a second. And then we've created a nominal form of some verb, and we squished all of this together. So it's the nominal verb marked with ga, and then taking dekiru, the verb meaning able to do. Those are a lot of steps just to come up with I can do this verb. There is a, I don't want to say simpler way, but there is a different way. There's another form of conjugation that kind of gets us to the same point, and that's what I'm going to talk about in 2 weeks. But what we've done so far, verb plus koto ga dekiru, allows us to write sentences like this one. Nihongo o hanasu koto ga dekiru. I'd like to point out just a few things here. First, the doer in this sentence is probably me. Ne? Contextually, we've omitted me from the sentence. We've omitted the doer because it's relatively common in Japanese to omit this kind of information if it can be easily implied through the conversation. And here, it's very likely that we're talking about me, unless there was some kind of previous bit of conversation that was maybe like, oh wow, so-and-so is so smart, isn't she? And then the next person is like, Hai, Nihongo o hanasu koto ga dekimasu. Which means like, oh yeah, she's able to speak Japanese. As if that were evidence that yes, I agree, she's smart. In a case like that, then yes, okay, we may need to specify exactly who's talking, or context would tell us who it is that's able to speak Japanese. But absent this contextual information, the sentence Nihongo o hanasu koto ga dekiru is probably referring to me, right? There's nothing else contextually to kind of get us to any other conclusion, and so probably I'm the one speaking, and therefore I'm the one claiming, yeah, I'm able to speak Japanese. Ne? Good. Okay. But if we really wanted to be specific, we may want to rewrite our sentence in an effort to be as specific as possible, to the point of banging you over the head with it. This would be our sentence. Watashi wa Nihongo o hanasu koto ga dekiru. Ne? Watashi wa Nihongo o hanasu koto ga dekiru. Please understand, usually you do not need to be so specific with your Japanese sentences, but I'm providing you with this whole sentence with the doer specified because I want to look at the particles that we have in play here. I basically want to show you that we have 3 particles in this sentence. We have wa, which is acting as the topic marker to identify who is the doer in the sentence, who it is that's able to speak Japanese. And then we have o, which is acting as the object marker, and it's marking the object of the sentence as the Japanese language, right? Nihongo, Japanese language. That's the object of our sentence, right? And then finally we have ga. And ga is marking the noun hanasu koto. And we've defined that as something like the act of speaking. It's basically the verb hanasu, to speak, but it's in the noun form. So ga here is really interesting. I want to look back at our ex ga arimasu construction for a second, right? So earlier we talked about the 2 major forms of Japanese sentences, the ex wa y des construction and the ex ga arimasu or ex ga imasu constructions. Let's think about that ga arimasu for just a second. Look at this sentence. ヘクスキーの6000個があります。ね。ヘクスキーの6000個があります。That means there are 6,000 hex keys. I don't know why there are so many hex keys. I don't know what we're going to do with them all. I don't know where they came from. I feel really weird about it. I'm a little bit uncomfortable. But the reason that I bring up this sentence is because of the ga in ga arimasu. We've previously talked about wa and ga can be really tricky as particles. Sometimes it's really, really, really hard to decide when you're supposed to use wa and when you're supposed to use ga. What counts as a topic? What counts as a subject? When do you use each one? That can be really tricky. And I've even told you there are actually books that are written about when do you use wa, when do you use ga. But here, in this ga arimasu sentence, ga is definitely being used to indicate that something exists. There is a thing, object, noun, and it is marked in such a way to take arimasu, which means exists. Ne? And in kind of a weird way, when we compare this to the ga that we see in koto ga dekiru, as in this sentence, watashi wa nihongo o hanasu koto ga dekiru, ne? Maybe for us, it's ultimately helpful to think about the ga in koto ga dekiru as showing that the noun hanasu koto exists. In other words, we might want to translate this same sentence in another way, in a much, much, much more specific, probably overly pedantic way. We might translate it as, I have the ability to speak Japanese. That's asking a lot of the word ga when we know that ga doesn't really translate to anything. It's just a particle, right? And it's really just marking the subject of the sentence if you want to define it that way. What's the quote-unquote subject of the sentence? Hanasu koto, ne? And that's being marked with ga to take dekiru. So ga goes with dekiru in the same way that ga goes with aru or arimasu. What's important here is understanding that this sentence has wa, o, and ga, three different particles that are all seeking nouns. They all want a noun to come between them, or before them, I should say. Like a noun or a noun phrase, either one is okay. So in some respect, this is a sentence that needs to include the idea of noun wa, noun o, noun ga dekiru. And compared to English, that's weird. It's weird because if we have defined dekiru as able to do something, as can, then we would really be expecting that before ga, we would have a verb. Just like in English, I can run, I can eat, I can find a place to store 6,000 hex keys. I hope. And then I'll forget about it. And then the next time we move to a different office, I'll be like, where did these 6,000 hex keys come from? What the heck is this box? I'll be totally confused yet again. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The point is that Japanese wants to be able to say verb ga dekiru in the same way that English says I can do something. But grammatically, Japanese can't do that as is. And the reason that it can't is because grammatically, it really needs us to turn the verb into a noun. The thing coming before ga needs to be a noun. It just does in Japanese grammar. And so in order to make that work, we have to use the nominalizer koto as we talked about before. Right? So, before we close the book on using the koto ga dekiru grammar point, we really need to address one more thing. This construction obviously must be able to be used in the negative to express the opposite, an inability to do something. I've talked to you before personally about being on this very restrictive diet, right? I can't eat meat or fish. If I eat either one of them, it's going to make me a little bit sick. It's not the end of the world, right? But it would make me sick. I have a hard time digesting meat. I have a hard time digesting fish. Again, it's not going to kill me, but it'll just make me a little bit sick. Okay? So I don't want to do that because I don't want to be sick. I particularly don't want to be sick when I'm traveling in Japan because that's not fun at all. So one very important phrase for me whenever I'm traveling in Japan is the following. 肉と魚を食べることができません。ね。肉と魚を食べることができません。It's fairly straightforward when you think about it, right? So that sentence means I am not able to eat meat or fish. This sentence follows all of the rules that we're already anticipating seeing from Japanese. The important information is transmitted via that final verb. And so conjugating that into the negative, in this case, dekimasen, which really would be the polite negative, right? That negates the entirety of the sentence. You don't have to negate taberu. You don't have to put that in the negative. In fact, putting that into the negative would change the meaning of the sentence altogether. But just by putting dekiru into the negative, as dekinai or dekimasen, that scopes over the whole sentence and it says, I'm unable to do this thing. In this case, this verb, which is to eat, right? Taberu koto ga dekimasen. I can't eat, right? So by negating that last verb, we're expressing our inability to accomplish something. And these are going to be the most frequent conjugations for the koto ga dekiru construction, right? We'll have verb plus koto ga dekiru. I can do it in the plain form. Verb plus koto ga dekinai. I cannot do it in plain form. Verb plus koto ga dekimasu. I can do it in the polite form. And finally, verb plus koto ga dekimasen. I cannot do it in the polite form. You can, of course, also add a conjugation of the copula des in order to express a tense in this verb, right? For example, you might want to say a sentence like, その超辛いラーメンを食べることができませんでした。できませんでした, right? That でした is putting this into the past tense. So できませんでした here would be I wasn't able to do it. Our sentence would be I was not able to eat that super spicy ramen. It was too hot for me. I couldn't finish it. それからその超辛いラーメンを食べることができませんでした。Too hot, couldn't finish it. Yeah? Now, that's not precisely the focus of what we were talking about in today's lesson, but yes, this grammar form can be put into the past tense in this way. That's another thing you can do with it. But basically, that's all for today. I know this was a lot just to explain the use of koto ga dekiru, but I think it's a really important grammar point, and I think that really breaking it down this way can be very, very helpful for helping you understand. Yeah? I hope you'll be able to use it. So, yeah, let's do a quiz. You know what we haven't done in a little while? Just some basic vocabulary recognition. For today's quiz, I'm going to give you some koto ga dekiru statements. These are statements that express your ability to do some verb, and all you have to do is identify the verb. So if I said, 食べることができる, then all you have to do is say, eat, because you know that 食べる is the verb meaning to eat. This will feel very simple, but sometimes simple is important, just so that we know that we're all on the same page with these verbs. If any of these verbs are new to you, that's okay. Do your best and we'll learn together. Also, no multiple choice here. You either know it or you don't. Although, hey, I would have no idea if you cheat, so if you want to pause the video and open your G-Show and check the verb in question, feel free. I can't exactly stop you. All right, here's number 1. Find the verb, please. So our verb here is nomu. Nomu means to drink. This sentence is いくら頑張っても水を飲むことができない. The meaning is, no matter how hard I try, I can't drink water. Water's important though. Please drink water to stay healthy. Here's the next one. Can you find the verb? Was this a new verb for you? I don't remember if I've taught you the verb for taught yet. Okay, oshieru means to teach. This is a sentence that says, 教師としてはいろいろなことを教えることができます. It translates to, as a teacher, I can teach you various things. This next one is spicy. Can you find the verb? Did you find the verb? It's nameru. Nameru means to lick. And what does this sentence mean? So yeah, so I guess that's the whole thing. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot about that. That's too funny. Anyway, next up is this one. Find the verb, please. This one was easy. It's miru. Miru is the Japanese verb meaning to see. 日本の4月に多分桜を見ることができる. In April, in Japan, you can probably see sakura blossoms. If you're lucky. One more, okay? You're doing so great. Here's the next one. Sensei が励ましてくれるので、私は頑張ることができます. This is probably my dream sentence to hear from one of you one day. It means something like, because Sensei encouraged me, I was able to do my best. Or, I'm doing my best. Something like that. That's honestly my deepest desire. I want to make you feel inspired so that you can chase your stars and do your very best. 一緒に頑張ります! If you're interested in doing homework this week, please write me a sentence about something that you are able to do. If it's a great sentence, I'll feature it on a future episode. I hope you learned a lot today. I know that this was a very intensely focused lesson where we really just talked about how we use that dekiru verb, but I think that it's really important. I think that understanding how this verb works and how we use it and how it's both similar to and quite different from English can, I think that really benefits your Japanese in a lot of ways and really helps you level up. As always, if you have questions, if any of this was unclear or, if maybe it was too clear and next time you want me to be a bit more vague about things, I can do that. I'm happy to do whatever you want me to do, but I'm always here, just waiting to hear from you, waiting to hear what you think. I would love to get your thoughts. Really, really eagle-eyed viewers will notice something about this lesson. I said that in 2 weeks, we would look at another way to form potential verbs. But I also said that looking at potential verbs would be my next lesson. Well, that's a discrepancy, isn't it? And that's because I'm actually taking next Friday off. I don't do this often, but next Friday I'm not putting out a lesson. I just feel like I've been a little bit busy with a lot of things. And on that note, tiny announcement, because we have worked very, very, very hard to get everything put together. But I have ready to be released tomorrow our first Puppy-Sensei's Pathfinder Apocalypse show. Yay! I am super, super, super excited about this. I really want you to check it out. It would mean a lot to me if you could watch it. I know that's very, very different content from learning Japanese, but it's also teaching content, right? It's also a school activity. This is an extracurricular. I do this in conjunction with the gaming club. So we really, really want you to check it out so that you can learn how to play Pathfinder. And if you already know how to play Pathfinder, then come and check out the story that I'm telling, because I think that there are some hidden, really interesting factors that are going into my storytelling, and I really want people to try to figure out what's going on in my story. So that'll be tomorrow. It'll be coming out sometime tomorrow, probably in the evening time, I think. I think that we're also possibly doing a watch along on Irium, where I stream every day now. So check me out on Irium if you want. I would love to see you there as well. Other than that, I really hope that you have had a wonderful week. I miss you always. Please take care of yourselves. Please remember to lead with love. It's very, very important in these times. We're all going through a lot, and I think, there's some members of my community, of the trans community, the greater sort of queer community, that are really suffering right now, and my heart goes out to, everyone within my community. I love you all. You may or may not know that I did an interview last week where I talked a little bit about my experiences. So if you're interested in that, I'll put the link to that interview, because that VOD is up on YouTube now as well. So I'll put that in the post description. But yeah, I'm sending all of my love to you. And until next time, see you soon. Mata ne!